Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching Karl-Heinz 99 playing in the Tier 6 German medium tank. It is the VK3001P. Now this is a vehicle that I have never featured on this channel, but Karl-Heinz is going to have an absolutely fantastic game. He's in a terrible matchup here. He's having to deal with tanks that are 2 tiers higher than him, 3 to be exact, a load of tier 7s, and then some pretty scary tier 6s on the enemy team to be able to take them down, like a Type 64, a Cromwell Berlin, a load of T-3485s, definitely not soft tier 6 targets. Now, this vehicle's never been featured on my channel, as I mentioned, and I guess the reason is that it's just not all that popular in World of Tanks. It's situated down an unpopular tree as well. It now is the only way to be able to get to the top tier German heavy tank, the Panzer VII. Absolutely bizarre, right? And that's because this vehicle was a prototype of the Tiger P, so I guess it makes sense within the line. However, unlike the Tiger P, this is a medium tank, and it doesn't really have the frontal armor that the Tiger P is famous for, or the long 88 with its fairly decent penetration for tier 7. Now the 88mm on this tank is a short 88, it has less alpha damage, we're talking about 220, with 145mm of penetration on its standard rounds and 194mm on its APCR rounds, but I don't quite know what is going through that T-3485's head. Maybe I was a little too confident, or I exaggerated, shall we say, the skill of the enemy tier 6 players, or maybe he just lagged out and decided to wiggle his butt up a cliff. We'll have to see later on whether the other T-3485 or his other tier 6 medium tank counterparts are going to be able to give Karl-Heinz a little bit more of a stiff competition. But back to the prototype Tiger P. It doesn't have the same frontal armor, we're talking about 75mm at the front, but one thing that is nice about this tank is 62mm at the side, and so that means that quite often, even if you over-angle this tank, you can ricochet lower-tiered opponents, but that's not really going to help Karl too much in this replay, and to all intents and purposes, he just needs to consider that his hit points, his 750 hit points, are the only thing between him and death. And obviously when some tanks on the enemy team like the 112 are doing 390 alpha, 750 hit points doesn't really go a long way. So Karl has situated himself in one of my favourite positions to use when you do spawn on the east. From here, he's able to shoot north. He's able to create this line of fire along the minimap, which I'm lighting down here, as well as we're going to be seeing later on. And being able to cut through the middle of the map as well, you can just be oh so effective. And he can support his team here. Look at this T-71 rushing in to fight against the vehicle that will grow up to be a T-71 one day. And Karl's just able to support him. But he does take his first hit of the game, and oh gosh, one shot from a KV-4 and the 107mm gun that vehicle has, and he's not very well. Luckily, the KV-4 whizzes over the top of the head with his second shot, and it looks like Karl is using coated optics. It also looks like he might not have that bad of a crew, because his view range seems to be exceptional for a tier 6 tank here. But then again, this vehicle has 370 meters view range. That's as much as the STG guard that just went into the game, I believe yesterday on the European server. And so with coated optics, decent crew, and using food like chocolate on this tank, he's able to spot the KV-4 at long range, and going forwards into the bushes, spotting him, then pulling back behind the bushes, he can shoot through safely. And that really is the key when you are trying to take on tanks that maybe have a statistical advantage against you. Maybe you don't have any hit points. What can you do in your +2 matchup games? And just using all of the mechanics and all of the strong positions like Karl is doing here, that is how you can be successful. So 3 kills now, having shut down that tier 6 Soviet heavy tank, the T-150. He manages to ricochet a shell there from the Panzer IV Schmaltern, who's firing an APCR round. Looks like that probably bounced off the upper deck. One thing I should mention that isn't too bad about this tank is also the turret armor. The turret armor, if you do manage to go hull down, with the 8 degrees of gun depression this tank has, then it isn't too bad. Gosh, an 87 driving straight towards him. That vehicle does have an impressive old slab of hit points. A tier 7 tank destroyer with 1,250. That's the specialty of the British line. High hit points, at least up until you get to tier 10, and then it all goes a bit higgledy-piggledy. But oh god, the Leo's right in front of him with a single hit point. Surely this is the end of Karl. Wow, the SU-100 M1 saves him. Talk about unfortunate roll there. 226. That would have been an absolute slap in the face if he'd left him on a single hit point and the Leo had shut him down there. But a great reaction shot, tracking him in place, allowing his tier 7 Soviet tank destroyer to help him out. And now that means that the 87 is completely locked down. Oh, be careful, Carl. There's a 112 hanging around there. Oh, you've only got 193 hit points, but he really wants to shoot that Panzer IV, and you can see why. He's on full hit points this late in the game. Well, this late, 5 minutes into the game. Now the 87's thinking about coming around the corner. Carl also has to surely worry about the artillery right now. Carl, I know you've got to try and put the damage in, and there's the artillery. There we go, 145 damage. You don't have to be a psychic to know that the piggies would be aiming at him there. Now, Carl decides to track him, and oh, another contender, another higher tiered contender, a T-25-2. Carl, beautiful shot there into the lower tracks. That also allows the SU or the UDES to be able to shoot him, and that enables him to finish him off. Not quite sure if the UDES is undergunned here or if that was the SU-100M1 that did shoot him, but great shot here. Carl into the side of the 87. But unfortunately, it looks like he's starting to run out of his APCR rounds here. So he switches to an AP round. Will he still be able to go through the side of an 87? No, he doesn't. But he shoots the tracks again, he locks him in place, aims for the side of the tank where the armor is weaker, and shuts him down. Wow, 5 kills, 4,000 damage in 6 minutes in a +2 matchup. And he has been killing higher tier tanks here. Talk about higher tier tanks. Scorpion drives straight out in front of him, one into the side of the tier 8 German tank destroyer, who seems hell-bent on killing the SU-100M1. Oh, it's funny how things work out. The SU saved Carl. Now Carl saves the SU. Great team play there, but it doesn't look like that SU is going to be in the game for much longer. So I guess Carl only saved him momentarily as the Panzer IV puts a shot into him, and then the artillery on the enemy team shuts down the SU-100M1. So Carl, you're on a top gun. You're also on 48 hit points, and there are still 3 tanks left to deal with. 2 that are higher tier than you. Well, at least 1 self-propelled gun and 1 tank that is higher tier than you. And the Panzer IV Schmaltern seems to be on full hit points as far as I can remember there. So, Carl, how are you going to handle this situation? Well, he needs to distance himself. He can't hold that position any longer. And it looks like the UDES must be using the low-caliber gun, as he did just under 300 damage there to the Panzer IV. And if he was using the... Oh, it's the IKV. I thought it was a UDES. Okay, looks like the UDES is down. Now it's an IKV. Of course, the IKV will be using a 90mm with 240 Alpha. Now, his Tier 6 heavy tank counterpart, the VK3601H, which, funnily enough, ages ago was the first ever Tier 6 medium tank that I played, and boy, that was an absolute beast. The first ever tank that I got a Kolobanovs in my first 1,000 games. I got really lucky. I didn't even know what a Kolobanovs was back then. But that VK3601, rest in peace. What an absolute beast it was. Now Carl is going to be taking a shot at this 112. Will he be able to go through the side of his tank with a standard round? Yes, he will. Wow, 145mm of penetration, doing Carl proud here. He also snapshots at the artillery, and this is where Carl really shows himself as a knowledgeable player. I mean, look at these little gaps that he's trying to find. He spots the gap, knows where the artillery is going to be going, and shuts down the higher tiered German self-propelled gun. But oh gosh, 112 on the enemy team. Looks like the Panzer IV Schmaltern has managed to take a little bit of damage. But that 112 has still got 1,000 hit points that Carl's going to have to go through. He's going to have to shoot him 5 times to be able to bring him down, unless he rolls super high with 4 shots, which would be a statistical anomaly if it did happen. So, Carl and an IKV 90B now on 9 kills between them, but with that Panzer IV Schmaltern approaching the IKV, surely he's not going to be able to hold it in here. Now, Carl, keep cool. Where's that 112? Don't get caught out in the open, but also you've still got to get some shots in. Aiming, aiming, aiming. The 2.3 seconds aim time on this tank. Quite long, but the 0.38 accuracy does hold true. Okay, let's focus on the situation at hand, and that is that Carl is on 7 kills, but he's now only got 5 remaining armor-piercing rounds and 1 remaining APCR round. But as we noted earlier on, he's got some very good view ranges, so he should be able to spot the 112 out in the open with his... Oh, well, there goes his final remaining premium round, Carl. I think he rushed that shot, buddy. He should have waited a little longer. And, oh, God, the thick armor on the Tier 8 Chinese Heavy now, able to bounce Carl from the front. So how is Carl going to adapt to the situation? Can you believe he's in a Tier 6 medium tank? And it's not exactly a Cromwell Berlin, is it, guys? With 5,000 damage here in his worst possible matchup. Now, it looks like he's firing high explosive rounds here. It does manage to take the track off the 112, but he's unable to damage the front of the hull. Now, the IKV is making his way towards the north there. Okay, so the IKV is trying to get distance, and Carl's thinking the same thing. He cannot take the 112 in the close quarters combat situation. He is going to need the assistance of his IKV, or he's going to have to try and engage him at long range, where hopefully he's got better view range. Although, having better view range, that's a tall order compared to a 112. The 112 is famous for its 380 meters view range, which is one of the key advantages of that tank over something like an IS-6, which is as blind as a bat with 350. These are the kind of things that you have to try and remember when you're in these situations, to try and put your vehicle in an advantageous situation and position compared to your opponents. Because when you don't have hit points to play around with and you don't have armor to be able to use effectively, it is going to be neck and neck stuff. And Carl just comes around the corner. Where's that 112? There he is. He went up to look where Carl was, unable to find him, whizzes his way down. There we go. There's a shot. I have no idea how that armor-piercing round went into the side of the 112's turret. That must have been a very good penetration roll for Carl. But I guess Carl's not complaining right now because he reduces his hit points to 744. Now, the IKV went all the way to the west. If the IKV was just a cap right now, he probably could manage to cap out in time, but then again, the 112 isn't too slow, so maybe he's decided that he's going to make his way back to assist Carl to be able to take out this tier 8 Chinese premium heavy tank. And Carl, realizing that he did get spotted there as he shot the 112, is going to relocate again. He is running rings around this 112. Notice how the 112 is constantly trying to chase where Carl was in his last position, whereas Carl knows where the 112 is going to go because he is chasing him around. This is just absolutely beautiful stuff here. How he's able to reposition himself to always be able to get the jump on his opponents. Absolutely fantastic stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this replay. I know I've been featuring far too many tier 8 premiums, right guys, on the channel recently, and so I really wanted to get you some people in underdog situations, and this was one of my favorites. But it doesn't matter if it's one of my favorites. Carl's got his work cut out for him here. Tries to put a round through the side of the 112, but it looks like it goes slightly high and through the spaced armor towards the upper hull. The 112 looks like he's maybe turning his attention towards Carl. Yep, here he comes. He's going to knock down those buildings, make his way over towards Carl, slowly but surely grinding his way through that little village, and Carl is going to escape. And now this is just an absolute beautiful moment here. Carl really showing that he is an exceptional player. Look how he sneaks around here. Now he's drawn the 112 into the line of fire of the IKV, and he's not spotted. The 112 has no idea where he is, and that allows Carl to pop up. Oh, another bounce though. He's only got one remaining armor-piercing round. Now the 112 realizes where he is, and Carl unable to go through his side of his armor again, but the IKV shoots him once. Carl puts a high explosive round into the side of his tank, locking him in place and dealing 50 damage. Oh, and the IKV saves him, shutting down the 112 at the end of the game with just 2 minutes left on the game with the sirens going off. That was rather tense stuff at the end. What a fantastic round. 6,500 combined in a tier 6 vehicle. I think a lot of us would be very happy if we could achieve that in our tier 10 tanks. So rightly so, Carl is significantly rewarded for his heroic efforts. He picks up an Oskins Medal for destroying at least 3 enemy vehicles that are 1 tier higher than you with a medium tank, a Confederate Medal for assisting with damaging 6 tanks on the enemy team that were subsequently killed by his allies, as well as a Top Gun. And you know, when you're getting a Confederate and a Top Gun in the same game, you have had a significant impact. And that's because Carl dealt damage to 14 out of 15 of the enemy players, even though he was in his worst possible matchmaking. Combine this with a high caliber for 5,574 damage dealt. And check this out, 2,450 base experience points. That is the highest anyone has managed in the current patch, at least with regards to replays uploaded to the What Replays website. And even though Carl fired a few premium rounds in this game and he resupplied that chocolate while it wasn't cheap, he still makes 15,000 credits profit. Not too bad for a tier 6 tank. So Carl, congratulations to you on this gigantic replay in a vehicle that a lot of people would always write off as the underdog. And thank you so much for uploading it onto the What Replays website for the community to enjoy, and also putting my name in the title to show that I guess you're a fan and to also get my attention. And hopefully all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. This week I asked you all what you wanted to see on my Facebook page, and Nicholas Eriksson suggested the Panzer 7 because it's a very underrated tank and you don't see it very often. And 72 people backed him up and liked his suggestion. So I'm going to be making my way to the Panzer Panzer 7 today. And that's very fitting considering that the VK3001P is the only way to be able to get there. And if you've never seen one of my tech tree showcases before, they're like a miniature tank review from tier 1 all the way up to tier 10, so you can see if it's a line that maybe you're interested in, or alternatively, if you have the vehicles already, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. So really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.